Good morning. I am feeling ruthless and beautiful and blessed. How are you doing? God bless you. Thank you, God, I'm alive today. Yes, I'm going to take off the hood. Just a little bit dark today. Let us work. The default, you still owe. Here's your warning. This transmission will call out your escape plan. Today ain't about your habits, it is about your fallbacks. The false self you keep reloading every time responsibility rises. You say you've grown, but when stress hits, you still download the same survival program. You don't need a new identity, although somebody's gonna sell it to you for $19.99 and you'll buy it. You need to delete the backup file you keep pretending you don't run. Growth doesn't just require forward movement, it requires the funeral of fallback versions. Welcome to Raw for Epoch 2, day 127. You didn't just build a new life, you buried your old one alive. Damn. And every time the pressure rises, you start digging. You reach for that version of you who used to numb it. You perform through it. Where's the stage and the lights so you can post about it? You excuse it, outrun it. That default, because it is your default, it's still breathing. That survival self, still saved in your spirit's operating system, just waiting for a moment of doubt to log back in. Let's check the chat early, because if you heard that, that should hurt. Yeah, I told you I'm hyped today. Here's our concept overview. You never really logged out. Here's what you'll learn: why fallback identities are the biggest threat to real growth, how default mode is often dressed up as coping. My son's big on that these days. You just coping, Dad. You coping. I don't know that I know what we all mean by that, but that's how we roll. Why old emotions create reboots in disguise. How to delete emotional software that no longer matches your current self. Why growth without deletion equals subconscious sabotage. Let's get into our visual metaphor. We call this the old app you never deleted. Imagine this. Immerse yourself. Close your eyes if it makes you feel a bit better. Or keep one of them open. You never know what's coming. You buy a new phone. Clean interface. It's fast. You're moving smooth. But every now and again, and it's smooth where I'm from, not smooth. It's a V. It slows, it glitches, it crashes. And why? Because hidden in the system is an old app running in the background. One you never deleted, you just minimized it. One that is sucking memory, draining power, and slowing the entire operation. That is the version of you you haven't deleted. There's an old you running, taking up bandwidth, crushing your consciousness. You're just not conscious that it's happening. Here's my personal perspective. The divided souls never dominate. Let me say this clearly. This is an evolution and a progression if you've been listening over the course of the last however many days. The spirit can only move in one direction at a time, not because it's limited, but because it is divine. Singular focus isn't a restriction. It is a spiritual power source. When you are locked in on a true objective, not an outcome, but a soul level directive, your consciousness reorganizes around creation. You begin to move strategically, emotionally, and spiritually in alignment. Innovation just flows. Execution becomes authorship. But the second you fracture direction, the moment you choose two apexes at once, you break the circuit. Multitasking is the myth that ruins remembrance. You build half formed efforts, leave open loops, start stacking false closures. And your soul, you have a soul. I hope you still feel like you have a soul. It gets confused because it feels the energy of starting, but never the peace of completion. So now your spirit thinks it can't finish, not because it failed, but because it quit too many times without grieving the death. And the scariest part, that incomplete version of you, it starts writing new code. It tells your subconscious, you can begin, but you never finish. You can try, but it never lasts. You can move, but not master. And that is not just mental drift. That's a fractured soul identity. Let me give it to you real. If I stop my podcast tomorrow, some of you are like, please do. It will not be because I'm quitting. It will be completion, not emotional, systemic. Hear me when I say this. It will be final, sealed. And I'll take the same architecture that built that house and use it to build a new one. Whether it's a book, a curriculum, a movement. But what I won't do is let a half-built podcast siphon my energy while I try to write a book, launch a course, post content, and become a coach all simultaneously. Because that's not divine, that is divided. And divided souls never dominate. So I move from one scroll. Delete the backup, run the real you. And that means no more half-built altars. Only sealed scrolls, only finished rooms, only singular direction that scales into infinite remembrance. The way I talked about, and this was somewhat inspired spiritually by the Kabbalist readings in the Sefer Yetzirah. I can finally say it. What a book. The angelic proposition that you can only have, or the angel essence can only have one singular direction. Let's eliminate that and the spiritual essence and just talk about consciousness and your thought processes. You can only think one thought at a time. Your mind can only be focused in one direction at a time. And right now, you're probably like, yeah, Jeff, I'm thinking of 1,000 gazillion different things. You are, and you can, one at a time. And that's part of the problem, is when they say like sort of ruminate. It's not necessarily that you're ruminating, right? You're not stuck, although you likely are repeating a lot of the same things. But what I'm talking about here is, what are you trying to do? It should be a singular direction and all should line up in the same way. Anything that conflicts with your direction is a risk to you completing that singular direction. But real quick before I digress, your mind, think of something right now, anything. You can only think about that one thing. I'm thinking about my podcast. I'm thinking about $1 million. I'm thinking about how I suck at life. Whatever it is, you can think about all three of those things, but it's one at a time. Your mind will focus in, focus in, focus in. Now, the reality and part of why you practice coming to presence and finding a way to have silence is you need to train yourself not to bounce like that. That's important. That's significant. You got to be able to laser in. But why do you laser in? So I can start to think a singular thought that births other like thoughts. So if I'm podcast driven right now because I'm creating the Do You rules and we're at row of 4, I can't think about work. I can't think about my children. I can't think about my wife. I can't even really think about God, although I believe all that is emanating from me. There's this paradox and this understanding of balance. I bring all of it with me because I am all of it. This is really God speaking. Not that, don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm following the message and the divine order I've been given. I'm just a vessel. So when I lock in that way and I'm singular, like, yo, these are my core values. Why do you think we have the rules that keep us balanced? God, faith, honor, loyalty. It's not just to sound cool or sell you a program and have you subscribe and like and me to take your dollars. I don't care about that. I mean, I do, but relative. It's that it keeps me moving in the same singular direction. In order for me to create my podcast, in order for me to create as a husband, in order for me to create as a father and still do my 9 to 5 until this carries me into my next evolution, everything has to be lined up in the same way. The bags can't be too heavy. The baggage can't be too heavy. I can't worry about who's doing what. That's inclusive of my environment and my relationships. I don't just give access to anything and everything. Why? Because when I open myself up, it takes away from my singular direction. There's people who I love that will text me. I will ignore it. Why? It'll cause friction. It'll make me start to think things outside of what I need to think. Everything has to be lined up in the same way. I don't know any other way to do it. If you figure out a different way, come back, drop it in the comments, send me an email. I don't know. But I've learned that when I focus on a singular thing and something else conflicts with it, like we talked about before, is building a different house. And then you're walking into different houses, trying to have different laws and rules, and you're compromised. So your mind, it'll give it to you. It'll let you hop all over the place. You'll build nothing to completion. You'll dip your toe in a lot of different places. That's why all these realities of how to go blank and clean the slate and then reintegrate your soul and your spirit and your mind and your body and your environment and your relationships all in a singular direction. And you gotta be hell-bent and stubborn and insistent. I'm only moving here. So also when temptation comes, you can look the devil in the face and say, I'm good. I see you. And it comes in many forms. It's typically through comfort. The idea that you could be doing something else outside of what you're already doing that you know you're supposed to be doing is a massively comfortable temptation. Why? It reignites the starting process. I keep trying to emphasize this. Some of us start, and there's a lot of, you start something, you make a couple of investments, you buy a couple of things, you put all these emotions into motion, and it feels great because you're like, oh, I'm going to start this. And you're like, oh, this is great. And you feel the sensation of starting. And when it takes time, when it comes down to putting in the effort and the operational flow, the tactical flow of every day, the compound effect of coming back, and it starts to wear on you and break you down, you're like, I'll stop. And then your mind subconsciously gives you a brief pause. It might a month, 3 months, 6 months, and then you start something new again. Even in the same space. Some of you are starting new again with the same exact thing, hoping for a different outcome. When all you got to do is keep doing the same exact work to move you forward in the direction you're going. Don't break rank. That's what it comes down to. You cannot break rank. This is where I go. I don't care what is in the way. The only thing that can stop me is God, my wife, and my children in that way, right? So I told you, I right now, gone. But also, because I do this for them, if they were like, yo, you got to stop because of this, I would understand and appreciate and be able to rationalize consciously that, well, this is what I'm doing it for. If I'm no longer being effective in that way, then I got to stop it. But not because I don't see the outcomes I'm looking for. What is the outcome? The outcome is exactly what I get from clicking record and logging into the system and completing what I said I would do. And I do it again. 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 I know. It won't get you where you want to go as fast as you want to go. Nothing I can share with you, teach you, or say to you that I've experienced and learned is going to get you where you want to go today. But it will get you there today. It's just when that today is, I can't tell you. But it takes many todays. And it takes you forgetting about today. Because that too will break you. That's more temptation. You look back. What do you want to look back for? You want to look back to rejoice at how far you come? I don't care how far I've come. I got a lot more to go. That's why the win's great. I got to win. Next. I don't talk about the win. I don't talk about the excellence. I don't talk about what I receive outside of just saying, yo, trust me, the abundance is there. You want one of those trust me, bro moments? Trust me that to trust God, you'll get immense amount of blessings. But you got to stay there. And the last thing I'll say, too, before we get into the Black Book system teaching for today, when you lock in and you're singular and you keep coming back to that spot and you keep chopping at the wood and chopping at the wood and you keep coming to God, demanding, not asking. Hear the words, demanding. How do I demand it? There's a lot of times I don't even need to say it. I don't need to speak prayer. I can feel prayer. God knows where I'm going. You're going to take a day off. Oh, I hope this doesn't happen. We talked about how you missed the blessing, how you missed the sign and you missed the message and you missed your seat. You're going to take a day off, and that might be the day. How do I know that? Because that's how life works. How do I eliminate that threat? Because it's a real threat. I show up every day. No blocks, no barriers, no barricades, no limits, no restrictions. If you're not moving with me, get the fuck out of my way. Respectfully, humbly, I can't risk it. I don't care who you are. I don't care what title and label you have. If you are not with it, then you are in my way. And I'm the one driving this train. I'm flying this plane. I'm moving this. What is it? I think it was in Rocky V. It's time to put some hustle behind that muscle. I love that line. I'm putting all the hustle behind the muscle. I'm the one dragging things forward. So I'm the one that says, nope, you're in my way. Nope, this doesn't align. Nope, this is what, like you might look to the side and everything it's like the grass is greener. You're going to look over here and be like, oh, man. You might watch somebody, oh, that's not for you. Anything that alerts you and deviates you off of the path you're walking is a risk. It is temptation. It is seduction. It is not for you. No matter how much relief it could bring you, it is not for you. Just do the thing you said you would do until it just breaks you, until it just kills you. Might as well. Because stopping, stalling, deviating will also break you and kill you. And then your consciousness, your own consciousness, your gift of free will, the gift of image, the gift from I believe that's God. Your infinite, your source, whatever you want to call it and relate to it as. It'll conform. And you'll teach it to get high off the start, to then get high off the stop. You don't realize that quitting is a high. And hiding is a high. You can't run from you, dog. I keep saying it. That's my biggest fear for humanity. That anyone and everyone who's just like me, I'm just a regular person, regular dude, regular place, come from the regular things that you did. But you wake up one day and like, man, really? Who wants that? Don't nobody want that. And it's all conscious driven. All right, here's the system teachings. Where we at in the chat? Where you at, chat? 420 on a day of the week. I really forgot what day is today. Check my phone. It's Wednesday. I almost said Thursday. Here's the system teaching: default logic and spiritual backups. Your subconscious holds all undeleted identities. If you didn't kill the version of you who used to cope, it's still coded in your system. Not suppress, not ignore, not pretend as if they didn't exist. You gotta kill it. Accept it, appreciate it, love it. It taught you something. But the subconscious, everything that you create for yourself, every identity, even the smallest fragmented deviations of the core. When you create a new foundation, and then you might create a new foundation next to the old foundation, and you might think those two are somehow connected. They're not. And then you're bouncing between what your consciousness. There's all these undeleted identities that surface when the most inopportune times. How do I know? Because it's life. I experience life just how you do. You gonna tell me that hasn't happened? You wonder why. I keep saying it's not coincidence. You've built this logic into your consciousness. Fallback identities feel like comfort because they are familiar. But comfort isn't confirmation. It's often just emotional memory pretending to be peace. Ooh, this is heavy, right? There's a version of you that can eliminate all the pain because you just sort of fall back into that person that you were, and you somehow believe, I'm gonna ignore it, I'm a quiet quit, oh whatever, oh I really don't care. That's that that detachment. That is not true detachment. You're just pretending to offer yourself peace. Why? Because the pain of continuing is too difficult. So you excuse yourself into comfort, even in a way that says, like, you pretend, I don't got no friends, I don't got nobody in my way, oh, I don't care about nothing, but you really do. And you're using that as a mechanism to pretend like it brings you peace, to put up a wall to the world. Like you're walking around with your energy restricting the environment, the universe, consciousness, God. You're restricting that. I don't care. All right, good. See what that brings you. You don't care long enough. You detach long enough in a way that it truly is like you're suppressive. And you bring peace by deflecting everything around you. And then you wonder why you haven't got a message or a blessing. You told the world, I don't want it. I don't care. So the world is like, good. I don't care about you neither. Every reaction is a reflection of your default setting. You don't rise to your attention to your intention. You fall to your identity code. One of the ways I've learned to assess and analyze, I talked about constant reflective remembrance. I journaled yesterday about reflective presence, some things that are just going through my mind that help me rationalize and understand this life thing that we're going through. But if you can somehow come to presence and watch how you react to things today, that's your default. That's why we pause. That's why we ask for silence. That's why we train silence. Because how long are you going to keep reacting in the same way and expecting a different result? So a lot of the immediate reaction is frustration and rage and anger. Why? What are you angry about? Or worry and stress and overwhelm. What are you actually worried and stressed about? Your problem is likely not as big of a problem as you think it is. You know how I know? You're still breathing. You still have a chance. You still have life. You know there's a problem. You know how you know when there's a problem? Because life seems to evaporate right before your eyes. That's a problem. It's a problem when you're losing opportunity and you know it. And you get a phone call you don't really want with a diagnosis you didn't really expect to come. That's a problem. It's also a problem if you decide to tell yourself it's a problem and you code that to say, up, difficulty, up, problem, up, stop. Yep. That's a reflection of your default setting. You haven't killed an old identity. And if you think ignoring it and getting in a group chat or some kind of party in your house to celebrate that you don't care is gonna kill it. All right, wait till you're alone, and you're like, why am I feeling this? Because you didn't kill it. You didn't accept it. You didn't appreciate what it meant to say it's time to really move on. Subconscious systems prioritize what you practice most. If you practice quitting more than pushing, then quitting runs smoother under pressure. That is one of the biggest things you realize, yo. A lot of times, too, we practice, and I think I was reading about the gentleman who created AA, right? Alcoholics Anonymous. He had he saw a light. He saw a light, and he created these steps. I didn't know this until I read it. The steps are faith driven. Why? I'm paraphrasing, because I can tell you everything you need to do by sort of tactical standards, like implement this, follow these steps. But the difficulty comes when pressure hits. Why? Because when pressure hits and your nervous system activates, you go into what simply can be referred to as fight or flight. Your pressure, in essence, you haven't been pressure tested. And you wonder why you keep going back. Because when the pressure hits, you haven't trained yourself to push. You've trained yourself to quit. And so you think you're going to persist. You think you're going to proceed forward, but you haven't been put under enough pressure to determine whether or not you will or you won't. That's why they say faith is so big. Because when it's easy to go home and put the bottle away. It's hard when you go to a social event and 58 other people are around you saying, have a drink. That's pressure. It's easier to go in the dark and hide from everybody and create a new version and then turn on the lights, walk into the world and present it. And somebody's like, yo, why did you? It's pressure. It's easy to start that collaboration, to start that movement, to start that dream, and then you put it under pressure. And what happens? Pressure will reveal pressure bust pipes, right? You got to find a way to eliminate your default and understand what happens when pressure hits. You can't, if you run from pressure today, you'll keep running from pressure tomorrow. That's just the way the system works. And subconsciously, it'll tell you that it's okay. And it is, if you decide it's okay. You don't need more discipline, you need a deletion. New software doesn't run clean until the old programs are wiped, but the old programs must be wiped systemically also. I can't stress enough that I think I said it yesterday. I embrace fear fully. I am fear in order to appreciate that I can be loved. So all the times that we think of all these things we want to implement and we want to stack, there has to be addition by subtraction and subtraction by addition. You can't make space for anything new until you wipe out what was previously there. And you can't just think you're going to, stuff it in a corner. You got to bury it. And how do you bury something? You have a funeral. You pay it its respects. You don't just pretend like it never existed or stick it in some crevice somewhere or put it under the floorboards. You got to go really give it a proper burial. Otherwise, it'll come for you. And as I think I said yesterday too, it'll come at the most inopportune time. It'll come when the pressure is at its highest. It'll come when the breakthrough is about to occur. You're wondering why you haven't broken through yet. Because every time the breakthrough presents itself through pressure, instead of pushing through and coming out on the other side, you bounce off that pressure wall and you return right back to where you were. And then after you go through the torturous process of realizing that, I didn't push through, you try to give time and put space between when you stopped, which is you quitting, and where you started. And as we already know, because we talk about this ad nauseum, the world moved forward, and as the world is moving forward, your process to re-engage is to restart over. restarting the same things and taking it to the same depth. But you never push past the breakthrough moment. And now consciously, you build yourself up to build yourself down, to build yourself up again in the same patterns. So you only ever get to the same place and only ever return to the same spot, which means you never moved in the first place. There's consequences. 4:30 on a Wednesday, we learned. I hope you're blessed, feeling blessed. God bless. There's consequences of inaction. You'll default to delay every time discomfort hits. I just said it 1,000 times. You'll outgrow your life externally but remain emotionally stuck. You'll keep rebooting sabotage and calling it burnout. You'll build success you can't sustain, and worst of all, you'll become loyal to an expired version of yourself and wonder why you feel dead even when life is going well. But I got you. Let's get into how to. Here's how to delete your default self. The first thing you want to do is identify your backup program. What's the version of you that shows up when pressure rises? Name it, describe its behavior, stop romanticizing it. Second thing you want to do is confront the emotion that powers it. Is it fear, shame, ego? What's the emotional battery that keeps identity alive? I talked the other day about a word, kind of surrender, and how it makes me feel uncomfortable. There was another one, obedience. Shame does the same thing to me. Shame is uncomfortable. But as somebody who has felt shame and sometimes still experiences shame, it's okay. I know how that sounds, but shame can really provoke the ego and start to build this facade and this strength barrier around it where you can't surrender. And you're wondering, like, why can't I just sort of find this ability to persist and persevere? It's because there's likely some of that inability to surrender, to become obedient, to release the ego because of shame. So shame can, you can do things that make you feel shameful. And part of what I learned in our journal the other day that starts to feel difficult is that even when you consciously can start to make immediate reflective and present decisions like, yo, all right, I'm in a difficult situation. All right, pressure's hitting right now. I know I'm going to make the right move. I'm learning that even when you make the right move, you can think of the shameful decision. Imagine that in order for me to execute the correct thing as a husband, the correct thing as a father, the correct thing as a friend, the correct thing as a God following human, that I have to understand that I can do something shameful if I felt like it. Now, the reality is you process that shame, you don't execute it, but you know you thought it. And just the thinking of it can hurt. And then you execute it, and the person who is interacting with you relationally, because life is relational, there's cause and effect. Yes, I did the right thing, but I also thought about that thing that I could have done. I didn't do it. Yes, that's a great thing, but I still thought it. It still hurts. And you wonder, does that person know that I thought this? And just thinking that you could think these things and that it's available to you and accessible to you, when you start really aligning with the power of failing, with the power of hurting somebody, with the power of ignoring someone, with the power of not being there the way that you should be there for the people that you should be there for, when you really align with that, it's shameful because you start to realize, yo, there's sometimes I didn't. There's sometimes when I quit. There's some times where I didn't show up when I should have. There's some times where I abandoned some people. And there's some times today that I still got to do that. And so shame hurts. Surrendering is, saying that my OBS studio is disconnecting. I hope that's not true. Now it's saying my reconnection is successful. Then we're moving on to the how-to. But think about what I just said, presuming you heard it and it makes it to tape. Then you want to perform a live override. Next time that default activates, don't argue with it. Outrun it. Move before it takes the wheel. Default dies when dominance drives. We're going to get into our phone tap, our ARR audit remix. We record the creation covenant loop. I can't emphasize enough. It's why I always talk about action. The only way forward, or the only way through, is forward. The only way to really go forward is to take action and to move. And if you don't move the way that you believe you want to move perceptually for the new identity, the old one will move for you. It'll press the brake. It'll grab the wheel. It'll nosedive the plane. So you're going to move anyway. And the only way to go against the grain is to keep moving in the opposite direction. The concept of cause and effect, the concept of relationship, circumstances and situations and consequences, it allows you to understand which spectrum you're on. And the reality about the singular drive is that you can be singularly driven to many singular conflicting realities. That's how you build little basements, little basement, little basement, little basement. And that becomes your default. And all you're doing is ignoring and creating distractions from what's really real. That's what busyness does too. We don't want to go silent. We don't want to sit still. We don't want to pause at the wheel and see where we're going because we're scared that we'll look and realize I'm the one that got me here. So busyness creates a distraction, and you can busy yourself with restarting something, a collaboration that never needed to be collaborated on. You just needed to keep going where you were going. And in that same way, surrender the wheel. Trust God. Trust the universe. Trust that what you said you would do is going to get you where you need to go, as long as you just keep going in that singular direction. The default, what used to be, the new dominance will kill all that, right? Here's our phone tap. ARR, Creation Covenant Loop, Audit, Remix, Re-Record. You got the call. Man, I hate myself sometimes. Now move like it's recorded. Start with an audit. Here's your memory identity, the emotion tied to life and how it's been hitting you. Ask yourself this. When was the last time your fallback self showed up? Not just behavior. What emotion did it ride on? Can you tap into that? What is your default emotion? What is your default emotion? A lot of us are numb and asleep and unconscious. And when we come to consciousness, you come to consciousness likely, consistently, in a certain emotion. That's how we build broke mindsets, poverty-driven, fear-based, or love-derived. What emotion is your fallback self riding on? Then you want to remix. This is the thought identity portion. You can speak the override or think the override, pray the override. I don't log back into old systems. My backup is not my blueprint. Can you say that to yourself? Can you look at your old identity and say, yo, I don't need to be you anymore? You can come for the ride. You can come along for the journey. I'm not going to dismiss you. I'm just not going to go back into being you. I'm not putting on that suit. I'm not putting on that mask. I'm releasing those thoughts. I'm not logging back into you. Then you want to re-record. This is the action identity portion. Choose an action your default would avoid. How many times have you heard me say this? Send the message, make the call, break the cycle, do the thing your old self wouldn't survive. I'm insistent on these micro patterns. The easiest I'll continue to say is to push yourself out of bed and do it in an uncomfortable way. And when you do that, you are training yourself to survive in a different way. And when you teach new survival mechanisms, your old self won't continue to survive. And in the same way, discomfort becomes very comfortable. You start to receive, yo, I'm telling you, I bought this Shakti mat. It's an acupuncture mat. It hurts when you lay on it. I couldn't believe it. I didn't understand it. I was intrigued by it. It hurts. When I get up, I have like little holes in my back and I go on it in the nude. All right. It's a beautiful, and I have it. It's also a pillow. So I have a pillow, comes with a pillow and a mat. It's little pins. It's acupuncture. It hurts when you lay on it. My back is red. Holes everywhere. It's beautiful. My body craves it. Imagine that. I can feel the signals, the sensation. Yo, go lay on the mat. I do it almost at the same time, every day. The same way I wake up at the same time every day. The same way I go to sleep at the same time every day. My point being, the discomfort gets so comfortable that it'll call on you. When you lift heavier, it sucks because you get to a weight and you start to dominate a certain weight, and then you're like, yo, to grow, I gotta lift a little bit heavier. And you go back into that sort of regressive feeling of it hurts to go heavy again. But if you stop, give yourself enough silence, don't distract yourself with a different plan, you'll start to crave the discomfort. Why? It feels great when you get off the mat and the pins come out of your back. And the weight becomes as easy to lift as the previous one did before it was amenable to your strength. And there's satisfaction, there's completion. You're closing a loop properly. And then what do? Go back on the mat. Everything we talked about today, everything we talked about in every today we've gotten together, specifically for our fallback identity. It's not growth. This is a funeral. Every time you let your default self lead, you delay your divine system. You didn't come this far to re-download survival. You didn't come this far just to come this far. You didn't get this blessing of life just to say, I got the crumbs. Stop accepting scraps for your life. And I'm not just talking about $1. I'm talking about for your spirit, man. Stop accepting somebody telling you that you're not where you're supposed to be and you're not good enough and you don't have enough. You already are enough. Stop accepting that survival mindset, that broke poverty bullshit, man. Accept yourself. And today, kill the backup. Delete the file. And run the version you were actually designed to be. You got the call. Now move like it's recorded. You either own it or become owned by it. You either run the system or the system runs you. Change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Do you and stay rich.